morning, sports world, from all around the globe, from Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican, and even Tampa to Taipei. This is East Coast Sports Investors Breakfast Bankroll. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, and today we look to dive into the MLB market, go over some last night action, a couple big dogs cashing, and try to get you on the right side of some tickets as there is some day baseball today. If you got a second and you're not following us, go to Twitter at EC Sports Invest, hit the quick follow button, turn on the notifications, and if you got 5 more seconds, head on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors, subscribe and like there, and our new platform on Twitch at East Coast Sports Investors, where we will be, God willing, doing some live streaming throughout the fall when the NFL and the NCAF is going on. Maybe enable you guys to get on some live tickets where we see some big edges and some value, and hope to be doing a lot more streaming. So the inbox is open. Dive on in, ask all the questions that you want, and we'll be here to answer them. So without further ado, my man from Tampa himself, the one, the only, Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is up?
How you doing, Jeff? You doing good this morning?
It is raining buckets here. So I have the Yukon sweatshirt on for Kemba Walker, who is now back at the Mecca and the Knicks. And I have my Circa Millions hat on. I've already changed twice. I had to go outside twice. I got soaked twice. So apologies for quote-unquote dressing down. But I was a drowned rat twice, and this is what it is.
I get it. I was that way 2 days ago when I went kayaking and fell in the water. And it's been raining. It's been raining here every day, and it's raining now. But well, I shouldn't say now. It rained this morning. It's not raining now. So maybe we get a little bit of break for a little while. But, that's Florida, though. When it rains for, I don't know, an hour, and then it stops. And then it's a pretty good day after that.
Yes, indeed. Day baseball today. So there's a handful of games that we can talk about, break down. Hopefully you have some information on some of those day games. Yesterday, basically in a nutshell, the favorites came rolling in. Favorites were 10-5, overs 9-6. The two big dogs that cash, Cubs plus 163, Royals plus 248. Yesterday for ECSI and the VIP crew, we went 1-1. We snuck one in with Ohtani, first 5 minus the half, 2-0. And we saw value. Now, value is only value if you cash a ticket. And there was some huge movement on Gallon and the D-backs yesterday, first 5. I mean, there was a 30-cent drop. We grabbed the D-backs plus 145. And we know 2 things, okay? They don't score a lot. They score in bunches. And generally, they don't get lathered up till, let's say, 4, 5, 6, 7th inning, and then they score in bunches. So as we were watching this game, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, top of the 4th, 2 outs, no men on, 0-2 count goes to a 3-2 count, and a solo homer by Solardo. Thanks for playing 1-0. And we got the leadoff double in the bottom of the 5th. But what we have done lately and been very successful has been diving into those first 5s, trying to find some value in that pitching edge. Vegas had said not so quick, as these numbers are now getting a lot more inflated, and your 230, 240 full game guys are now 260. And when you're getting into the 240, 250, 260s, even minus the half run, now you're going into the 160, 165, 170. And once you start tipping toeing over there, you're really dancing with the devil. So thoughts on baseball in general, where we are right now after the deadline?
Yeah, I think that you kind of hit some of the nails on the head there. You got to be real careful because ideally, the whole reason you're taking the first five money line is to change your odds anyway. And if you're changing your odds, think about it like a prop bet. If you're not thinking about it as a prop bet, then you're probably thinking about it the wrong way. Because truthfully, if you're taking all these prop bets, you want to get some great odds on your prop bets. And if you're getting terrible odds on them, then you might as well not use them, because that's the whole point of doing what you're doing in the first place. So I think you're right. I think that what ends up happening is that there has to be adjustments made, and the sports books understand how all that works way better than what the sports bettors do. So they know what their leverages are, and they know where their money is and what the risks are. So they want to make it so that no matter how the outcome of the game comes, they can make a little bit of money. And so what? I mean, that's what they're in a business for. Our job is to get our piece. So as we start to look at it, there are certain pieces of the pie you should try to eat, and the others you don't. I mean, I personally am not a crust guy, man. I give the crust to the dog. I want the cherry pie part. I mean, I want the cherries. So when you're making your bets, make sure you throw the crust pieces away and get into the right stuff, because there's enough pie to eat out there. You just got to pick and choose where you like to eat. And if you're a crust guy, okay, great, then throw away the other pie part and eat that piece. But the point being is that you can pick and choose where to be successful, and sometimes it depends on the niche of what kind of handicapping you do. But more than likely, you're going to have to figure out how that plays into the hands of what the sports book does, and then how can you operate around that. It's punch counter punch. So as you're going, I think that you can make some really good adjustments, and make better wagers if you pick and choose your spots correctly.
1,000%. And here at ECSI, we try to grind through Monday through Saturday, and then we do our Sunday action parlay. Usually with the leftovers, God willing that we've already had a winning week. Put quarter, half on a three-team action parlay to get us through the day and night, and already have 2, 3, 4, 5 units set off to the left for envelope Monday. I don't want to get into those situations where you start dabbling in parlays in the middle of the week, where again, like for instance yesterday, the Yankees, the Jays, even the first fives or full games. I mean, I'm not going down that slope where I'm going to start diving into run lines with home teams with the 24 guaranteed outs, even though they're covering this week a couple times. The Jay, especially with the high powered offenses, Scotty, the Jays, the Yankees are starting to get it cranked up. But in the long run, you're gonna lose. So I can't get into the Jays. I can't get into the Yankees. Another example last night was Scherzer. I mean, real overpriced. And listen, it made all the sense in the world. The Dodgers got blanked the day before, and not just blank, but to the Astros. So Dave Sharapan was on the show yesterday, and he was on the show last night on Sports Grid, and he says, well, the guys were talking about the under-over at 8.5 with two good pitchers. And Dave says, well, it's 8.5 for a reason. And he goes, you might not want to sweat the over. Why don't you take a look at the Dodger team total? Coming off a loss, coming off a shutout, these guys going to be chomping at the bit. And they got the team total 5. It was 4.5, but they got 5 runs in the second inning. Mookie had 2 homers. So, again, we've talked about team totals, other ways to take a bite at the pie. There's a million options out there, Scotty. And I say this all the time, and we said it earlier this week. I just think people are lazy.
No, I agree. I mean, you have to if you know who's going to win the game, and just say that Dodger game with Scherzer pitching, right? There's a great likelihood the Dodgers are going to win the game. Everybody knows that. So the prices aren't going to be to the point where you can get in on the game. So figure out another way to bet your angle and get in on the game. And like Dave just talked about, that was a great idea. looking at the team total on the side. So that's a much better way to go. And I'm sure it wasn't minus 200 to get to the number that was. So
No.
if you're getting to a point of, say, it's minus 130 even, that's a much better way to get into the game and then enjoy watching the game you want to win, and you think you're going to be on the good side anyway. So I think there's a lot of those spots out there, and I call it being creative. But at the same time, it's not necessarily creative as much as it is, finding a way to get action on a game that you think is going to be a winning game for you. And you just have to figure out which way to go. And the first five, is a common thing that a lot of people are doing these days. The other thing that people are doing, and I hate this, that they take those big money favorites and they get two of them and they parlay them together, and then they start mixing and matching them, and they got one guy here and one guy here and another guy here, and then all of a sudden there's three of them all out there, all mixed around, and then they wonder why they lose. You cannot start gambling in a way that's is favorable to the sports book. You can't do it, and there's the sports books love that stuff. Hey, if you're doing that, man, they just want you to keep walking to the window, because that's not how you do it. That's not the right way.
Oh, and don't worry, no pushing, no shoving. We'll open another window for you. Don't worry about it.
Yep, that's no question. Hey, you're that guy. Okay, here, we got a special window for you. It's right over here.
I'm going to pull up today. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to pull up a different spreadsheet from our friends at Wager Talk. And we're going to show you the Wager Talk screen today. And we're going to dive right into some games here, Dave. Scotty. Let's get you right up to speed here. See if we can crank that up for everyone. From our friends at Wager Talk, again, a lot of day baseball here. Some big opening numbers, some corrections, like we like to say. Just going to run through some of the day games here. Rotation number 901, 902. Your buddy and our buddy, Rich Hill, and the Mets at Miami. An open at 160. Currently, you can get them at 129 at the Circa right here, Derek Stevens. If you haven't been there, please go there. It is the mecca of all meccas for sports books. 310, Cubbies at Colorado. Arrieta versus Sensatella. Colorado open at 160. Again, on the Vegas Strip, they're down to about 158. San Fran, Arizona. Wood versus Kelly. I have an opening number, San Fran and Wood minus 180. That is dropped to 158 at the Circa. 405, Phillies, Washington. Nola versus Ross opened at 165, now 152. Boston at Detroit. Boston snapped their 5-game losing streak. Perez versus Skubal. I have talked about Spider Tack. I have talked about the fact since Spider Tack, June 8th, Richards and Perez have been brutal. Cora's just rolling them out there. You find a way. We'll get into that game there. Sox opened at 125, currently 124 and 122. And Al Bundy, joke, Dylan Bundy against Texas, and Howard making his debut for Texas, coming over from the Phillies. Angels opened up at 120, currently at 107. Anything pop there for you, Scotty?
Yeah, the one thing, we'll just talk about that 12 o'clock game for a second. I had listed this to take a look at, and then I scratched it off my sheet. But one of the things that I think is interesting here is the overnight line was minus 160. And what did you say it was now? Minus 120 or something like that?
129.
Yeah, so it looks like it's a 30-point move, but it really isn't. No. What happened? What happened was Rich Hill was pitching, and they didn't know what listed pitcher was going to be going for Miami. Garrett is pitching. His name is Braxton Garrett, and he's taking the spot of what's that guy's name? The great lefty that they got going on, having a great season. Anyway,
Rogers,
yes. I kept thinking of Cooper for some reason. Anyway, Rogers is supposed to be pitching this game. So I don't know if they were just kind of throwing numbers around or doing whatever. So it's kind of interesting. But when I started to break this game down, the big thing is that the Miami Marlins are number 30 in baseball in offense against left-handed pitchers. Um, Rich Hill played for the Tampa Bay Rays. Obviously, people know that. But in that short time that he was a Tampa Bay Ray, he's faced Miami. They've seen each other. So it's not like it's going to be one of these things where he's unfamiliar, and that's kind of one of the things that you bank on. So as an offense, you kind of want to bet on an offense when you've seen the pitchers before. And I think that's probably a little bit why there's a little bit of movement in this game. And I don't think anybody knows who Braxton Garrett is and that kind of stuff. But I'm never going to bet on the number 30 team in baseball against a left-handed pitcher when the left-handed pitcher's on the mound. That's never going to happen. So that just kind of scratched that game off for me. I was looking at probably a first five in that type of spot because I think when I saw it, it was first five and it was even money. And I kind of liked the Marlins at even until I figured out they can't score. So I wasn't going to go that way. And then the game that sticks out kind of to me that I like in the day game here. I like Texas today as a small dog, right? Are they even now? Kind of even, I guess. Minus 105, 105. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, on the strip here, we'll use circa. You can get them right now at minus 103.
Yeah, I like Texas in this game. Not because of their offense, because their offense is terrible, but right now the Angels offense is the worst offense in baseball. They rank number 30. Their weighted runs created plus is 51. So that means they are 49% worse than an average offense. Not only are they bad, they're like 49% worse than an average offense. They're like really bad. And we just talked about how teams do when they see pitchers or have familiarity with the pitchers and stuff. They're a little bit better off. So this is kind of like one of those games that are late in September when they get the call-ups and the kids come up and these teams go out and they never faced those pitchers before and the pitchers have the edge. Well, this is one of those spots. Howard has never faced hardly anybody on there. I think he's faced one batter. It was Eaton, who now plays for the Angels, and he's only faced him, I think, 2 times. So that's the only batter that has ever faced Howard on this team. So the other thing I looked at here is that Howard is not a long starter for Philadelphia. He's kind of an opener type for Philadelphia. He pitched like 3 innings on most of his games. So I'm guessing the Texas Rangers probably going to try to stretch him out a little bit. So I played it in the first 5 innings. And I liked the matchup there. And what I also liked is that Bundy is a demoted starting pitcher. It's not that he was injured. They put him in the bullpen because he can't throw anymore. And he's only been pitching 1 inning or 2 innings. So he's sort of like an opener type himself. And he has had terrible history of success against this Texas Rangers lineup. His WOBA or his weighted on base average is 581 against this lineup, and that's in 46 at bats. So that's kind of quite a few when you figure out how many times they're going to pitch against each other, and the average number there is about 325. So if it's the average number is 325 and he's at 581, that's not very good. And then the ISO rate, and that's the isolated power. So you're looking for that number to be around 185, 190 to be average. He's 326 against Texas. So Texas isn't going to be going, hey, this is a guy I don't want to face. They're going to be up there going, yeah, let me have him. So I kind of like the matchup. I think that's a pretty good advantage here. And I played it in the first 5 innings. I got minus 105. And that's probably about where you're going to see it. I wouldn't want to take Texas as a big home favorite. So as long as you're getting the even money on it, or even if it was, say, minus 110, I think you're probably in pretty good shape with that game. And I think the Giants an afternoon game too? Yeah. So the other game that I played in the afternoon I did play that San Francisco Giants game. What I liked here was I took Wood in the first 5 innings minus a half run, and I got it at minus 115 against the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks are throwing Kelly, and Merrill Kelly, he's their best pitcher this year, but that's not saying a whole lot because, their best pitcher is an average pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's done pretty well over his last 7 starts, but he's not one of these strikeout guys. And this is not the first time that San Francisco's seen him. San Francisco's seen him quite often. And San Francisco is number 3 in offense currently this week. So I like the idea that they're hitting. And I like the idea, too, that Wood is kind of off of a bad start. So he's been one of those guys that if he comes off a bad start, he throws a pretty good one. And he's a lefty, and Arizona's not doing well against lefties. They're number 26 in baseball currently on offense. And then secondly, the Giants have really hit Kelly. He's got a 412 WOBA and a 247 ISO rate. So again, those are well above average numbers. I like the idea that you can get them at a decent number. I like the idea that you're not having to deal with the bullpens and deal with the long game or any of that stuff. I think you can capitalize with the Giants, even though a lot of times they start off slow.
And I pulled up the first half, and I'll just show quickly like the money lines for the first fives and what we've been talking about. 2 games that we're kind of eyeing here. The Rockies with Zensatella versus Arrieta opened up minus 150, currently at minus 168 for the first 5. And then a matchup where I think there's value. Now, the only problem with this one is I don't know which Joe Ross is going to show up. Okay, you get that Joe Ross that's lights out, and he's a he's a thorn in your side, or you get the Joe Ross that blows up and it's a walk in the park. And so Nola, where there is an edge, versus Ross opened at 160 and is now 176. Now, those are the money lines. So here's what we're talking about here. We go to the spreads for the first 5. You can sneak in and get Colorado with Zensatella. It opened up minus a half run, minus 115. It is now minus 125 at Circa. Pinnacle has it at 117. And some of the online spots at around 120. Going over to the Zensatella and Colorado, minus a half run opened at 115, now 125. Again, I know the Zensatella Arrieta game. The problem with that one is I think there's going to be some runs scored on both sides. I don't know what you have for numbers on both those pitchers. And then when I go to Nola, I can get Nola minus a half run, minus the 120. What makes me a little nervous here is that Pinnacle now has it down to minus 109. So if you were looking at your numbers, Arrieta versus a Zensatella or a Nola versus Ross, anything stand out there?
Yeah, there's one game in there that really, really stands out, and that's the Chicago-Colorado game. Over the of all the pitchers today, of all the starting pitchers today, and over the last 30 days, the guy with the best Sierra number on the board today is Zensatella. He leads all of them, and that's every single one of those pitchers that is going today. He's got a 294 Sierra number and a 289 xFIP. So that means he's controlling the game from the mound. He's getting his defense to support him. He's not a big strikeout guy, but he walks nobody. He's got 3% walk rate. So that's excellent. And the way he's winning, Jeff, is he's getting a 70%. I've never seen this that high that often. A 70% ground ball rate. Holy cow. They're just beating the ball into the ground. So it doesn't matter what his hard hit rate is if they just hit it down into the ground. So I think that when you start to think about what he's doing, and then you look at what Arrieta's doing, hell, anybody can hit Arrieta. You and I can go out there and hit him now. So I think that's what, his batting average against Jeff is 448. He has a 2.82 guys on base. That's like 3 guys getting on base every inning. I think how can you not score against Arrieta? So I like what you're talking about. I like that first 5 with Colorado a lot.
What do your numbers say, Nola versus Ross? Do you see the same thing I do about Ross? It's Jekyll and Hyde. He could be out in the second inning or he could be standing there in the 7th or 8th inning.
Well, I've talked about Nola in the past quite often, and probably in a negative light more than what most people would probably like to hear. My thoughts are is if he's supposed to be an elite top 10 pitcher, his game score better match that. And he's a 54 for the season. And it's just not there, right? So you need to be a game score 60 or better if you're going to be a great pitcher, and he's just not that. However, I will say this: his numbers over the last month, his game score over his last 3 games is a 62, but his last 7 games is a 50. So what does that mean? That means really when you start to look at it, since the All-Star break, he's come out and pitched pretty well. And that's only a couple starts now, so that doesn't mean a whole lot. But if he's going to really rebound and have a good back end, that's what scares me about that Ross matchup. Because no matter how good Ross is going to pitch today, if Nola pitches the way Nola can pitch, he's gonna dominate the game. So I like the idea that Nola is pitching pretty well. And the other side of this, and we talked about WPA, the win probability. Added numbers, and Nola's been negative most of the season, and right now he's a positive 0.42. Ross is a minus 0.10. Now, minus 0.10 is just a little bit below average, so I don't really look at it as being a bad thing. It's kind of an average number. But what it does mean, though, is that Nola's back to figuring out that bulldog attitude, so to speak, where he gets in clutch situations and makes the pitches and gets the outs. He wasn't doing that all season. So there's a difference here that scares me a little bit off of Ross, and maybe more on like a total number, maybe more like an under number or something like that, because I like pitchers who have pitched a bad game the last time out, and Ross pitched a bad game the last time out. So he ought to be able to have, one of those games where he level sets his numbers and gets back into shape. And he's pitched pretty well. He pitched a game score 63 and a game score 51 against the Phillies in his previous 2 times this season against them. So it's not as though, they've hit him really hard. He's had an average start and an above average start against Philadelphia. So I kind of like the idea here that you could probably get 2 pitchers that are going to pitch pretty well. And I was looking at that. I think, what was that number, 8.5 or something like that total?
8.5 juiced, 115 over.
Yeah, see, I then I looked at the weather. I didn't think the weather was going to be an issue in that game. Sometimes you can get those 4.5 numbers on a first 5 run line or total, and under 4.5 is not a bad gig here. I would stay away from 4, but 4.5 under is not a bad thing.
Well, I figured we'd close with this for some poops and giggles. The Hall of Fame games tonight. Finally, we got some football. Pittsburgh opened up -1 and a 34 total. So basically, Vegas is being cute, saying 17. Well, basically 17-17, 17-16. No overtimes in the preseason now. So have to remember this, okay? When teams score late, they're going to go for 2 for the win or the loss. So those -1 numbers actually could come into play, the 1.5s and 2s, where in regular season games, you're not afraid of those most of the times because of the key numbers, again, 3, 4, and 7. Have seen a lot of movement to the under. If you're anywhere on social media, the whole world's on the under. We all know this is a second, third, fourth string. Flags. These guys haven't practiced much in pads, live action. And Dave brought this up pretty good yesterday. It's like an auto bet, like the under in the Army-Navy game. It's an auto bet. They put out 38 and the final score is 2014. It doesn't matter what they put for a number. Everyone's going to bet the under. But it was kind of seeing the move today from 1 to 1.5, some twos for Pittsburgh. So maybe some news on maybe who might play a little longer, or some running quarterbacks that might be in the system for Pittsburgh. Everyone likes running quarterbacks. But any thoughts just on Pittsburgh and Dallas? Dallas. Just the fact that football's back.
No, I think everybody's jonesing for football, right? And they go crazy, and I do the same thing. You get all excited for the football, and my wife was talking to me the other day. Well, we're going to go out to eat on Thursday. I go, no, we're not. You're going to move it to Wednesday or move it to Friday. We're going to go out to eat on one of those days, and we're going to have nachos, and we're going to watch some football. But the problem that you run into with this game. And this is the most boring ass football game there is. The Hall of Fame game, and then even in the third quarter when they start talking to all the Hall of Famers, that's fine. You want to hear them talk to them and all that stuff, but it just drags on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and all they do is run the ball off the left tackle, and then they run the ball off the right tackle, and then they throw like a 5-yard dump pass or something, and then they punt. So it's an interesting game in a sense that it's the first one back. There's a lot of excitement. You get to see traditional colors in this game. You're going to see the Cowboys colors. You're going to see Steelers colors. They're everywhere. People are going to be going crazy. But when I look at this particular game, I like to look at the quarterback rotation. And if you really want to talk about the rotation, and then they match them up, right? So we know Dak Prescott's not playing in this game. So he's not going to play. So you got Garrett Gilbert, Ben DiNucci, and Cooper Rush. Those are going to be the quarterbacks for Dallas. And then they're going to match up against the quarterbacks for the Steelers. Roethlisberger's not playing. They already announced Mason Rudolph, right? So do you like Mason Rudolph over who the Cowboys are going to throw? I do. The next guy that comes in is Dwayne Haskins. Now, I get it. Now, he wasn't a great quarterback in Washington or whatever. But he's got starting quarterback experience, and he can play. So there's another guy that's going to have an experienced edge and a probably advantage. And then the next guy that comes in is Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs has been in this team for 3 or 4 or 5 years now. He knows everything there is to know about the offense. Plus, he's been playing in this role all the time for Pittsburgh. So another scenario where you've got a guy that's going to be probably at an advantage in the quarterback position. And if you know anything about football, and you just have to watch it a couple of times, the quarterback is the most important player on the field. He touches the ball every time under center. He's the guy that makes everything work. And the way I see it is Pittsburgh has a matchup edge at every level down the line in the rotation. It's just a matter of whether they want to go out and actually score any points or not. But all they got to do is win by 3. And I would stay off the under. 33 points is a really, really low number. But shit, it wouldn't surprise me if it was 17-10 and something like that. But I do think the Steelers are going to win this game, and I think the Cowboys just don't care about winning these games. Not that the Steelers do either, but I just think that the Steelers have the edges at the positions and they're deeper on a lineup.
And we talk about running quarterbacks and experience, and Haskins and Dobbs both fit that very well. And I think Haskins has a little chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, no question.
And very upset how he was treated and handled in Washington. Comes over with new life in Pittsburgh. We are on not just the back 9. We're probably on the final 1, 2, 3 holes with Big Ben, and we don't even know how long he will hold up. So there is a nice battle there between Haskins and Dobbs. You basically, when you're coming into warm-ups and you're sitting on that sideline, you're one play away from the coach calling you and tapping you on the shoulder to say, "Hey, kid, get in."
Yeah, look at what's that guy's name, Tyler, whatever his name is, that plays for Washington now. That came in, Hanky, yep, the guy that had the great start against the playoffs against Tampa Bay and almost beat them and all that. So, it's just all you do is you get your chance, and if you can do well when you get your chance, you're a star. And if you're Dwayne Haskins, who got your chance a little bit, maybe he was handcuffed in a sense of what the offense was allowing him to do and whatever in Washington, or maybe the head coach didn't like him or whatever it was. So now he gets a new lease on life. He's in Pittsburgh. He's close to Columbus, where they played his college football, and maybe he feels more comfortable there. And I don't know. I think the game breaks down to where Pittsburgh has all the edges, but this is preseason. It's practice. But if you look at it from a different perspective, some of these coaches want to win. So we're not talking about them, but if you're talking about the Ravens, right? John Harbaugh wants to win every one of these games. I think he's won 17 straight of these games. I don't think his ATS numbers that way, but he's not lost 17 straight games, and he just wants to go win. And another one you want to watch for that's kind of changed the boat here is the Raiders and John Gruden. John Gruden has been a great preseason wager on team. I think it's going to be that way again this year. I think that because you have a quarterback, I don't think it's really a battle. But when you have Marcus Mariota playing and he's going to play most first halves of all these games, I think you got a pretty good edge in some of these spots.
All right, so closing up, anyone watching, listening, keep an eye on Zensatella, first 5 minus the hook with the Rockies. Keep an eye on Nola, potentially first 5 minus the hook. Both numbers real short, 110, 115, 120 there. Scotty, your selections today?
Yeah, I'm on San Francisco, and I'm on Wood there in the first 5 innings, minus 115, minus the half a run. I took Texas first 5 innings, minus 105. And one game we didn't talk about, it's a later game. I did play Atlanta today with Toussaint, minus 117. I just can't stay away from beating up on LeBlanc, and at this point Atlanta has now seen. Think about this: Atlanta has seen LeBlanc, they've seen Hap, and they've seen Lester. I mean, come on, man. I mean, what are you doing? And you're the St. Louis Cardinals, and you're throwing those guys? Okay, well, whatever. I mean, I think Atlanta is going to be like, okay, these guys are throwing, 85 miles an hour. I'm pretty used to that now. They ought to be able to go out there and tee off on this guy.
Yeah, the almighty Cardinals with their starting staff. I know brain cramp here. Mikolas and who's Flaherty, both have been out. So they waved the white flag. And you know what? I know it was a big splash. I get it, but I didn't like the Arenado trade in regards to, because you got Arenado, you got Goldschmidt. They got, again, guys that are great, good team guys, good clubhouse. I just think the flash, the flare is gone. Now, listen, Arenado can pick it. Goldie seems like he's starting to go down a little. So I'm not against it, but I don't think that was the way to properly build this team. I mean, it's always been Cardinals starting pitch, and then they were able to come up with the flamethrowers in the back end. I just think they've been sleeping at the wheel lately.
Well, I don't think there's any question. If you look at their lineup, I do like their lineup. They have Carlson out there now in the outfield. I think he's going to be successful. I don't like that other kid. What's his name? Bader. I don't like him that well. They've always had a problem at second base. I don't think they fixed that. What's that kid's name? Eichhorn or whatever his name is. It's over there at second base. I don't think he's going to be the solution there. I think Goldschmidt and Arenado are a good combination to actually have a way to build around, but they don't have a shortstop.
Where's Ozzie when you need him?
I mean, they don't have a shortstop and they don't have a second baseman. So this Edmundo Sosa has been playing shortstop. And if you're nothing against the being named Edmundo, but I mean, I don't know the guy. I mean, and I know a lot of these guys, but his performance is not where it needs to be Tommy Edmond, not Eichhorn, is the guy who plays second base. Bader plays. So if you're not strong up the middle, and we don't talk about this enough, Jeff, we really don't. If you don't have a good shortstop, a good second baseman, and a good center fielder and a catcher, you're not going to win. It doesn't matter who you put at third base, first base, right field, and left field. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win. So you need to have something that legitimately qualifies you as decent players. They don't have to be superstars. They have to be above average at those places, and they don't have them. But the kid Dylan Carlson's a good player. Paul DeYoung is another one that they have at shortstop. Shit, he don't get to play anymore. Think about that. A guy that hits all these home runs that plays for shortstop for the Cardinals is getting beat out by Sosa. I don't get it. And then that Tyler O'Neill kid, he's going to be good too. So they've got some hitters and they've got some young kids. They're just not dynamic. And the other thing I think that this team lacks is consistency. I mean, they might get a couple guys hot and then they go off again, and then a couple guys hot. And I don't think, and I thought I heard this somewhere, but I can honestly, God, I don't remember ever seeing it. I don't remember Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt being hot at the same time. I don't remember it. I don't remember ever going into a game thinking of, oh my God, these guys they're just absolutely killing it. And you want to avoid one, but you can't avoid both. And I don't think any time during this season that any team has ever gone in there and thought that way.
And you talked about up the middle. That was always the golden rule: win and build up the middle. And when you said that, I just thought about what the Mets have put together, with the Baez and Lindor. I mean, I'll take them till the cows come home. You beat that middle, add the catcher, add the center fielder with their pitching. I mean, but it never can stay healthy. DeGrom, a big issue. What's his name finally came back. He got his second start there. What's that?
Walker or
from
Carrasco.
Carrasco. You're still waiting for Thor, yada, yada, yada. So, but with that said, listen, guys, it's been an amazing show. Grab your pizza, beer, popcorn. We got football at 8:00. Scotty seems to think there's a slight edge at QB with Pittsburgh. Again, it was 1.5, now maybe 2. If you need to scratch an itch, take a lean there on Pittsburgh. I talked about my 2 first fives with Colorado, and potentially we'll dig deeper with Nola and the Phillies. Scotty talked about his 3 plays. If you got a second and you're still here, do us a favor. Just go on to Twitter, EC Sports Invest. Give us a follow. Scotty, your handle on Twitter?
It is at Webby20W MLB. No W. I'm looking at something else. A little warning sign just popped up on my computer. I'm like, what? What is that?
And then just run on over to YouTube, East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. Put the notifications on. And if you got one more second, I'm telling you, this is where you're going to want to be this fall. Go over to Twitch and East Coast Sports Investors. Give us a follow, turn on those notifications. What's good about that as well is if you can't catch our show now live, you can always go over to Twitch. You can always go over to YouTube. They're right there. You can listen and play them. And if you have any questions, DM us, send us an email to East Coast Sports Investors at gmail.com. We'll answer anything for you. We'll put you on our weekly emails, great information, freebies, the whole 9 yards. So from myself, Jeff Dawson, the East Coast Sports Investors, Scott Webb from MLBdaily.com. Have a blessed day. Always remember, when you wager with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, pick up the phone. Reach out to someone. There is help there.